give off a real professional vibe around here.
Hey, welcome back to the Backstairs Podcast. I'm Scott.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm John.
And we're back to it again. What do we got going on this week? How you been?
I've been okay, doing a bunch of work, having a blast, working solo now.
Working's always fun.
Yeah, it's going well.
Yeah. You have no new employees yet?
No new employees. If you would like a job.
Yeah.
Come on down.
That's pretty much it.
Radio Shack. No.
You've got questions. We've got positions open.
All right. I just want to start off by saying that I went snowboarding in Utah.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And I have one story that I want to tell from it just because I think it's interesting, at least.
Well, you went snowboarding in Utah, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic time. That's all I'll say about that. But
is this the story I've heard 63 times?
Probably.
Oh, by the way, Janelle's here.
Hi, everybody.
In case you haven't noticed.
I had your thing turned down. You're up now.
Oh.
All right. So this is the story that
typical.
I went with some friends, and one of their friends was there before we were, and they were skiing with some locals, and we were able to team up with these guys. And the locals' names, one was Steve, fantastic guy. Both of them were fantastic. And none of us can remember the other guy, but let me just describe him for you real quick. Steve, on initial thought, heavy set, kind of smaller. And then the other guy, kind of similar, a little bit taller. And Steve and this other guy always rode their snowboard with a beer in their hand, like no glove, just a beer in their hand, no matter what, going up the lift, going down the mountain, which is impressive to say the least. But so the other guy's name that we couldn't remember, but we nicknamed him Scud Lips. Because
Scud Lips.
But the hour and a half that we rode with them, they each probably drank 4 beers each. Oh my gosh. In an hour, which is pretty. I mean, that's a beer in 15 minutes. That's pretty good. Yeah. But so Scud Lips was Scud Lips because the corners of his mouth were just filled with scud.
It's so gross.
It was so gross. And like I couldn't look at him at his face just because I would just start laughing at him because it was so gross. But so that's like there's more to it, but just to keep it condensed, I rode with locals, Scud Lips and Steve.
Can you explain why they appeared on first glance to be heavy set?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Is because they packed beers into their jackets. So it looked like they had a beer belly, but really they had beer in front of their belly.
Yes.
So,
which is a beer belly of sorts.
Which is a beer belly. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're right. So, yes, they had beer bellies.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But so that was my time in Utah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That was
so they were deceiving at first glance.
Mm-hmm.
Very deceiving.
Okay.
Very deceiving.
That was just one story we're going to hear about Utah.
Yes, I'll save some.
Yes, we gotta spread that stuff out.
Scott, are you deceiving at first glance? You think? Do you have any?
Oh yeah, man. You never know. I'll sneak right up.
He's very questionable.
You gotta watch your back when Scott's around.
Well, did you guys see what happened in the news today about the fireball?
I did see that.
Did you guys see it?
I did not.
No.
I'll watch the news if I can help it.
You wanna take that bag and just kind of pour it out? Just pour it. Yeah, just pour it out. So, right, we got the little dollar nips you can get at any gas station. Fireball, cinnamon. They're meant to be like a resemblance of the big bottles you can get. But the controversy on these is that is not cinnamon whiskey. It's a malt beverage, and it's not actual liquor.
Yeah, even though it says whiskey with natural cinnamon flavor.
Couldn't find out any type of nip you buy like that flavored nip is going to be a malt beverage, not liquor. But they're parading as liquor. I mean,
Isn't there a huge lawsuit going on too?
it's got to be massive.
Yeah.
All these people thinking they're getting drunk on whiskey.
Instead, they were getting drunk on just other type of alcohol.
How
Malt
dare
beverage.
they?
Oh my gosh!
How dare Fireball?
It was actually Zima.
I don't know what Zima is.
Zima?
You don't remember Zima?
You're old.
All right, Grandpa,
Scott.
fill us in.
Zima was like the Twisted Tea
Oh,
back in
okay.
the early 90s, probably.
Okay.
That's before I started drinking. when I was
In utero.
Yeah, it was a clear, just a Bartles and James wine cooler. All it ever is.
Why'd you buy so many?
Because there was a candy cane that was like $10 for 10 of them, and I don't personally like cinnamon anything, but I thought, well, I'm sure I know people that do. So,
Well,
It's not staying here. So.
I thought I'd give
Yeah,
them
fine with
out,
that.
out the window,
trick or treat.
Yep.
because no one wants them anymore because they're not real liquor. So it's like consolation prize.
Come in for a job interview and get some Fireball, not whiskey.
Ooh.
I'll hook you up.
Mhm.
All
But
right.
I think a lot of times with theater, we kind of do the same thing, right? Like we use a lot of design and tech and lights to give off that optical illusion or make something bigger or smaller. We use that to our advantage.
Yeah.
I hear what
Especially
you're saying.
in like our theater like ours for Oompa, like we have we have limited space sometimes.
Right.
And the effects can go off quite we can do a lot with it.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our guest tonight.
Yeah.
Well, it's about time.
He's very deceiving.
Very deceiving at first glance,
And not just because of the color of my skin.
Oh, quite inconspicuous.
Anyway, would someone like to, Janelle, would you like to introduce our guest tonight?
Oh, today we are joined by someone pretty cool. He's beautiful and talented and beautifully talented.
All right.
Oh, well, okay.
Nailed it.
Check and check.
Yeah.
Check. We gotta get those in. A tech guru, if you will. And a very talented actor as well, and other things. This is Danny.
Hello. Danny, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Driving the weather. Appreciate it.
I know it started to snow on my way here. I could barely see the roads. It was great.
Yeah,
Well,
good times.
Yeah,
We don't have a budget for accidents, but
it's okay. I'm insured.
Good thing we're not.
yeah. So awesome having you here. I know that, I had met you at USM probably when I was working at the campus there, I'm pretty sure.
Probably, yeah.
And I was in the music program. So we kind of bumped past a couple times. But yeah, do you just want to tell us a little bit about where you're from, what you come from? What do you do?
Sure. So I know I've heard you guys ask like how long people have done theater before. So I was thinking about it. I think the first show I was ever in was when I was in preschool. I was Little Bear in our preschool production of Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
Very nice.
So I've done theater pretty much my whole life.
That's awesome.
And I grew up in the Damariscotta area here in Maine, and I went to school at USM for theater. Actually, I got really involved in like high school. I actually, after elementary school, I told myself I wouldn't do theater for a while or music and just try some other stuff. But I went and I saw the fall production of Little Shop of Horrors. And I've never actually been in that show, but I thought it was really cool and it made me want to do theater. So I auditioned for the one act and I got in with one of the parts, and it was a student written one act that year. So that was a lot of fun. Got really into tech theater and our community theater when I was in high school, and then went to USM for a bachelor's in theater.
That's awesome.
So I got my bachelor's in technical theater, actually.
Nice.
Still had to take a couple acting classes, but just I was never really one of the kids that got roles at USM, but that's okay. So then I kind of got burnt out on theater, and I took about 5 years off. And then I got a call asking if I would accept a role for a part where they needed a South Asian actor specifically. So
Well, you're like, well, I mean, I kind of fit that.
yeah, I was like, I appreciate that you're asking, like it's better. They said they had some white people read the part at the auditions and just didn't quite seem right. So they asked me to do it. And, I have never talked like this before, but I figured I would give it a shot and it worked out okay.
I mean, you nailed it.
And so people came and saw the show, really liked it. I caught the bug again after that. So that was in like 2015. So I've been doing theater pretty much nonstop since then, much to the chagrin, I think, of my wife, because we just had a daughter about 9 months ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
But so I'm not home as much as I think she would like. But I've also been trying to do paying theater gigs so that it's a little more manageable.
Makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we just scoot that a little bit closer to that mic? Do you?
No problem.
Thank
There
you.
you go.
That's awesome. So you guys did a show together.
We did. Yep.
Yeah.
Mamma Mia in
Yeah.
2019.
I
right?
think so, yeah.
Time flies, right?
It's been a long time. Yeah.
Were you guys counterparts or?
Technically, there were 4 of us that
Right.
kind of ran the same
Yeah.
circuit.
So there's like the leading female actress and then the leading male, and they had 2 friends each. So
Right.
we were both the friends
Yes.
of those
Which is convenient.
actors. Yes.
Mhm.
Friends. That was some kind of show like that called Friends.
Also
or
from the
something?
90s.
Very,
like Zemo
very well.
was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Back in my day.
the 90s.
Yeah,
Who can remember?
I've told you now several times that the 4 of you were my favorite part of that show. I
Yeah.
felt like you were all very coordinated, very together, and I think it was really good.
I had a lot of fun
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah, it was really
a fun
fun.
show.
It was a fun show. Exactly.
A lot of dancing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You had to put up with me at one point. We were partners during the finale, like the big encore, like 3 numbers back to back to back.
Right.
Yeah, that was intense.
that was a
3
lot.
different ABBA songs coming at you.
I mean, at least it's fun music.
It is. Yeah,
It is.
It
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah.
to see the audience standing up and singing and clapping, that was really cool.
That was a really cool part at the end of the show where you're like, everybody.
Mhm.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, and it was like the director's dream to direct that show, so that was really cool to
That's
see
cool.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who directed that one?
It was John Blanchett.
John Blank. Yes. Cool.
So Danny, you have currently you are involved with several different groups.
Yeah, I don't like to kind of get stuck in one spot, so I kind of work with a bunch of groups. Mostly I work with the Monmouth community players in Monmouth. That's where I'm from, where I live now with my wife.
Okay.
So I'm the artistic director for the Monmouth community players. I also started and am the education director, so I do kids theater with them. I do a lot of their tech. I act in a lot of their shows. We have auditions actually for Guys and Dolls coming up this weekend, so
Ooh.
looking forward to
Exciting.
that.
Wow.
And then I actually was also just in a show with the Children's Theater and Museum of Maine.
All right.
That was a show
Mhm.
for little kids, ages 0 to 6, and that was really cool. I had never done theater for young audiences before, so it was really cool. Like a lot of the kids coming to see the show, it was their first time seeing a show at all.
Right.
So it was really cool to do that. I played a kitten.
Mm.
I was Pinwheel the kitten.
Mm.
I was the
Nice.
dopey cat, as I like to refer to myself. But that was really fun.
So that's your favorite role you've played so far?
I've had a lot of fun roles.
Yeah.
Last spring I played Gomez Adams in the Adams Family.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Awesome.
that's a good
That
role.
was a lot of fun. I know that one of your guests recently played William Barfay. I played that role as well.
Right,
in
yeah.
Spring
Nice.
Beast, so
Nice.
yeah, had a lot of fun roles. But being a kitten was very fun. Yes.
We can edit this out, but was Hillary a part of that? Because she was.
No, well, she wasn't part of your production, was she?
No, so there were 2. The way that the Children's Theater works is they have shows kind of back to back.
Yeah,
So
okay.
2 shows are usually rehearsing or in performances at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So Hillary was an understudy for Snow in the Jungle,
Mhm.
which was the
Yes.
show that happened
Yeah.
right before mine.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So how many children are we talking about?
How many children that came to see the show, or
Yeah, I mean, like what type of audience size was that?
so their theater holds about 88 people, I think.
Okay.
So we had anywhere from 25 to 50 people, sometimes
Mhm.
60 or 70. And it's also they consider it professional because you're getting paid to do the shows.
Mm.
So the run is actually a month long.
Okay.
So we did, I think they do weekday shows, and my day job as a teacher, I couldn't do that. So
Right.
they gave me an understudy for those shows, which was really nice of them.
Yeah.
I really appreciated being able to still be involved, even though I couldn't do every show.
That's cool.
And so I think I did like 20 shows.
Wow.
And then they had like 7 or 8 more.
Jeez.
Were these like parents bringing their kids to it? Were they schools?
Yeah. So it was a little bit of both. Like the weekday shows, some school groups came and saw the show. And then for the weekends, usually it was like parents. And we also did it the school vacation week between Christmas and New Year's almost every day. So
Cool.
a lot of like families coming in to see it.
That's a blast to be able to have that as an option for parents and for schools. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
you directed with the children's theater as well, right?
Not the Children's Museum, but I direct a bunch of children's shows myself with the Monmouth community players. So I started the education program in 2019.
Cool.
I did one of those like cheap pioneer drama shows just to gauge interest in our area, see if there were kids that wanted to do theater outside of school. I've come to realize since then a lot of schools at like that middle school age, elementary school don't have theater programs at all. So
Yeah.
we are kind of offering a service that a lot of other schools don't offer through the community theater. And one of our major goals as a theater is the education of others in theater. So right now I'm actually directing Magic Treehouse Pirates Past Noon.
Oh, that's so fun.
For
Aw.
kids ages 6 to 12. The snow has snowed out like the last 3 rehearsals that we had scheduled.
When do you guys go on?
We perform the 3rd weekend of February, I
Okay.
think.
That's
We
the
usually
best
do.
do.
Magic Treehouse book too.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, you can't go wrong with pirates, right? So,
Right.
so I do a lot of children's theater directing, and we're starting to branch out into doing some stuff for adults too. We're going to be doing a technical theater workshop
Cool.
with CLT. So
Oh,
we're
sweet.
partnering with them. We're going to offer 8 different sessions, 2 in stage management, 2 in lighting, 2 in sound, 1 in set, and 1 in props.
Oh, great.
Whoa.
Wow.
Because we have not very many people that really have that technical theater background. So
Yep.
we're trying to start a training program to help other people that might be interested learn more about it and
Mhm.
be able to work on some of the shows and stuff like that.
That's amazing.
I'm trying to learn it from these guys when we do Misery this summer.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Maybe
I'm
I'll
gonna be an apprentice to Aaron.
maybe
Aaron's
I'll just
apprentice.
go to his thing.
You could.
Right.
Well,
Well, speaking of CLT, you have some pretty new news from, right? I mean,
Yeah. So they just recently asked me to be their technical director. So I'm still kind of learning what that means. They're kind of in the process of readjusting all of their tech departments and how everything operates with each other. But essentially, I help oversee the sound, lighting, and stage management programs that they have there.
wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
That's a lot too.
It is on top of everything I already do in Monmouth.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeez.
But it's a lot of stuff I can do from like home, like
Okay.
looking for grants. We're proposing a brand new lighting system for CLT that'll be like a multi-step process. So we got to find some funding for that. And but we're trying to upgrade to LED lights because their lights are probably from before the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
yeah.
Definitely.
The LED is not cheap.
It's not, no. So they're talking about buying it in phases.
Yeah, I think they're like $200-$300 a piece.
Yeah.
Easily,
But I
And-
mean,
and that's only for the powers. If you actually
Yeah.
want the source fours,
right.
They're more like 1,300 to 1,500 each.
The idea of them is wonderful, though. I mean, like less electricity, less heat.
Yeah, so it
I
saves
mean,
electricity.
It's still pretty hot.
It can, yeah, for sure. But the energy savings, up to 60% energy savings on the incandescent bulbs.
Yeah.
They don't burn out easily. They have a shelf life of 50,000 hours.
Yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
they calculated at CLT if they did the 4 shows that they do a year with the lights on, they could do shows for 100 years before they
Okay.
would burn
Wow.
out.
That's worth it.
Well,
And there's
It's
no,
not quite that good.
and there's
but-
no warm up involved, right? I mean, you could just turn them on and go. Right?
Yeah, you turn them on and go. They're color changing, so you don't have to worry
Yeah.
about swapping out gels. You don't have to necessarily refocus them every time you use
Oh,
them.
man.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
especially if you get like the remote ones. and
Yeah,
all those-
moving lights. So we actually just did an LED upgrade at Cumston Hall, which is where the Monmouth community players do a lot of their
Okay.
shows. So everyone used to rent the lights from theater at Monmouth, but they're also a user group. So the town wanted to own the lights so that everyone was using them equally.
Okay.
So we just did $100,000 upgrade on the lighting system at Cumpston Hall, but we have 4 moving lights. We have all LEDs and a brand new light board. It's really fun. I got to play with it for Adam's Family. So that was the first time it really got used for a show. So I was excited about that.
Yeah. And a lot of those you can get like computer automation or everything.
You can, yeah. I don't know that much about that. Like when I was in school for theater 2006 to 2010, like they didn't have that stuff.
Right.
So unless you go back and really like learn it, it's hard to kind of get into all that stuff.
Yeah. No, it's cool though. I mean, you could almost set up the show to run itself.
Oh yeah, you definitely could.
You just have to hit a button every time you want to switch, or even you can even program like timing.
Well, so that's what I do is I always do cues. That way I can have pretty much anyone come in and hit the go button to the next cue. But the thing about lights is, the actors on stage don't always do the show the same way, or they miss a line. And we all know, right? We've been on stage. So like you miss a line, or you skip part of a scene, and all of a sudden you have to jump a few cues ahead. So like you need that person there. Unless you have an AI or something that's going to run, pay close attention for you, you got to have someone there that's paying attention.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, speaking of that lighting, I mean, the whole new lighting setup in Adam's Family, you have some also pretty exciting news. The BroadwayWorld Maine just recognized you, right?
Yeah. So BroadwayWorld, you can be nominated for different award categories, professionally or non-professionally. And I'm excited to say that I just got the award for lighting design.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
Adam's Family at Monmouth Community Players. And that's, when I saw that, I was just so so exciting.
Although I have to say, it's hard to be the lead role in the show and do the lights for it at the same time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of both back and forth.
Yeah, it's a lot of running back and forth. I do a lot of my programming outside of rehearsal time.
Right.
And that way I can just have someone push the button and the director will tell me, oh, this doesn't look right or that doesn't look right. And then I'll go and fix it.
Yeah, I don't remember Gomez with an iPad or something.
No, I wish. The iPad program is like $50. I haven't invested in it yet. But with the new lighting system at Cumpston Hall, you can have the iPad with the program. You can run it all from there. Wow. So very cool.
And then you just like sync things up to your iPhone,
my
Apple Watch.
Yeah, that'd be
great.
Someday.
I just heard that Apple might be releasing like an Apple ring, like a wedding type style ring, and you could do it with that.
Yeah,
you just have like a little roll,
a scroll or something.
I think I would know. I don't have it yet, so I mean,
it's not real.
It's not real.
It's probably not real. It's probably the same thing with the Apple glasses or something. I don't know.
I mean, they existed. They were just bad.
Yeah.
But
so did you want to kind of go through a couple? I say a couple. You've worked with a good amount of theater groups. You already talked about a couple of them. But can we just maybe go through it?
Sure. So when I was in college, I was able to work with Mad Horse Theater Company, which is a professional company in South Portland. They have a small black box theater right near Lyric Theater, actually, in South Portland. I did a production of The History Boys for them, and I played an ethnic character. Go figure, right? That's kind of my niche, I guess. But it helps get me parts sometimes. Yeah. And then I was in another production of theirs called Trevor in like 2017 or 2018, and that was really fun. It's about this. It's based on a true story about a chimpanzee that is like adopted by this person, and the chimpanzee ends up like killing them, I think, if I remember correctly. Something like that. Cool. Yeah.
All right.
It's been a few years, so it's like not
pretty
right
hardcore
in my head, but and the script there called for an actor of color, so I tend to fit that role for different theater groups as well.
So
unfortunately in Maine, it's
who did you play? What did you play in that?
I was a animal control officer.
Okay.
And then there was like one other role that I also played, but like the script specifically called for an actor of color. So they asked me if I would be willing to do.
I've heard stories of people who have had chimpanzees and things happen.
Yeah.
That are not.
Oh yeah, they'll eat your face off.
Well, what are you owning a chimpanzee for one?
That's a good question.
Mhm.
If you have a
leave them out in
chimpanzee,
the forest.
we would like to talk to you.
Shoot us a message.
You know all those wild chimps in the main forest. You know, leave them out there.
Leave a
Where they
comment.
belong.
Send us an email at thebackstairspodcast@gmail.com if you own a chimpanzee.
You'd like to weigh in on the conversation. Okay, so yeah, from there.
I mean, I like I said, I kind of bounce around. Like,
Yeah.
so I've done a few shows at CLT. I was in their production of Shrek, and I did Mamma Mia with them.
Nice.
What'd you play in Shrek?
I was one of the 3 pigs.
Oh.
Yeah. So we got to wear
Yeah.
fat suits in the middle of the summer. It was
Oh,
super.
good times.
You
He
know?
Yeah.
poofed and he poofed and he signed
Yes.
an eviction notice.
It's true. I was the brick pig though, so I was the smart one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
It's important.
And then I worked with a theater company that no longer exists in Portland called Pie Man Theater Group Company. It was started by a couple of local actors there, and I did a small show with them, and the name of the show is escaping me at the moment.
That's fine.
But I was on their board of directors too for a little while when
Oh,
they were
cool.
around. I did one show with Cast Aside Productions, also no longer exists.
Oh, yeah.
But I was in their production of Bubble Boy. I played the Indian ice cream truck driver. Again, specifically like Indian character, had to use the accent and sing in the accent, but it was
Right.
fun.
Yeah.
That was a fun show. It's professional schedule was pretty crazy though. You know, we had to go in and we had to learn everything in 4 weeks and then perform the show. Like, it's not like community theater where you have a couple months to really like get
Mhm.
into it.
Yeah,
So,
that is hardcore.
same with the children's museum too. We had 4 weeks of rehearsals and then a month of shows. So
Wow.
Well,
So yeah, I kind of bounced around from place to place, but I like keeping my options open,
Mhm.
working with different people. You know, you learn something different from every director you work with. So,
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
and I'm also a director myself, so I learn stuff, you know, for
Yeah.
both purposes.
Yeah. Now, I might be just a little confused with so do you work at Monmouth teaching, or do you teach a school?
Sure. So my day job is as a 4th grade teacher.
Okay.
So I teach at Leeds Central School in
Oh, okay.
Leeds.
Cool.
And then our community theater, Monmouth Community Players, is who I do the education,
Right.
the theater education program through.
Okay. Sorry, I was just
No, that's okay.
cool.
I do a lot of teaching in various ways. So-
yeah.
He's a teacher.
He's a teacher.
Yeah.
That's
Now,
right.
I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later. And I mean, only part of your theater life is actually being on stage. But I know we've talked about it on the show before that there are some roles that at this point in my life, I've accepted. I'm not going to get them. There are people that, you know, I tend to try to lean into the big guy roles, right? Like, I know that those are, I'm a shoe in, right? I got it. If I, you know, and so I look for that, the big menacing, right? Now, obviously, there is, and again, we're going to talk about this a little later, but you know, that you're getting handpicked for it's the guy, right? It's the skin color, and that works.
Yep.
Do you find yourself leaning into that? Is it something that you're almost like, you know, that
I've kind of had that internal debate with myself before a little bit. Like, how do I really feel about being asked to play these roles of color? I think I've settled on the fact that I appreciate that they're asking me to fill a role in a state like Maine more appropriately than it would be filled by a person that is not of color.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially the South Asian roles are hard to find. So I do appreciate that. I would not want to go to a show and see a white man trying to sit talking an Indian accent, you know?
Yeah.
Although I have to say that white people are pretty racist about it sometimes too. Like, I did a stage reading in that accent, and a woman asked a fellow actor friend of hers if that was my actual voice, and
oh boy,
yeah,
wow,
I made me laugh a little bit, but also feel, you know, not the best.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's you're portraying a stereotype.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like I think of like, oh, Abu on The Simpsons, or like, you know, like it's
Mhm.
that stereotypical voice. Like, I hope that people don't really think Indians actually talk that way. But some of them do. Like, some of them have very thick accents. But also, I like in my everyday life, I don't talk like an Indian person. I have a pretty regular vocal tone, I guess. So, but then also some scripts are very ambiguous, right? Like it says person of color as opposed to like South Asian actor or so. So it really depends on the script.
Yeah.
But I've heard of theaters doing like all white productions of like The Mikado or like all white productions of The Wiz, which is the black version of The Wizard of Oz. And like, I feel like in a state like
That's a
Maine
head
where there's so
scratcher.
little diversity, it's offensive and not offensive at the same time. Like
I want to say like maybe that play is just like out for Maine. I don't.
Well,
Maybe just do the Wizard of Oz.
Maybe.
Right. And there is actually a group that's doing Wizard of Oz right now. So, but I also play a lot of roles that are not, written for any specific color, right? I was in Oklahoma and I was Will Parker, and that's actually where I met my wife, was doing that show.
Aw.
Cool.
So we were cast opposite each other, Will Parker and Ado Annie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where we met. But like, that character in particular is not like a white guy or a person of color. It's, so.
Right.
Like I'm auditioning to be Sky Masterson in Guys and Dolls, So, but again, it doesn't say it has to be a white person or a person like a person of color. So there are times where I appreciate that people pay attention to the diversity. But I also know that in our small Maine theater community, theaters have been called out for that before, like not paying attention to it. And I think there's a tactful way to have those conversations. And then there's an aggressive way of just calling other theaters out and saying that they're doing a bad job with it. So I think it's better to be tactful about it. And then I don't think people should do the Wiz necessarily or the Mikado unless you have people that can represent those races appropriately.
No, I wholeheartedly agree.
Well, the context is important, right? Like,
right, exactly.
If a character is written to be of color, then there's usually a reason that a playwright has chosen to do that.
Right.
Sometimes it's the style of music that character is singing, or it's their socioeconomic status, or something like that. So, like I know that there was a group that did Newsies, and they had to cast their Meta Larkin as a white woman instead of a black woman. And though you think of that stereotypically as a black character, that doesn't mean that person has to be black.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is also up to the interpretation. But I think theaters in Maine do need to be a little bit more conscious of their show choice. Like as the artistic director, that's partly my job is to lead, MCP in thinking about shows that will work for our demographic of actors that come audition for us.
Right.
For our audiences that will come see our shows. So I'm not going to pick a show like The Wiz where I know that we're not going to get, black people to come audition for it.
Right.
Well, talking about you being headhunted for certain roles, what do you have a hot take on that? What I mean, like, do you find that appropriate for theater groups to take that into consideration? That not precast, but make sure they are able to cast that role first.
I think you need to. I think the word conscious is a good way to think about it. Like you need to be conscious of who you might have in your auditioning pool, or do you know someone that you could ask to audition? Like. Obviously, it's really great when someone's like, hey, we're going to hand you this role. Please be in our show. Like that makes you feel good inside. But also at the same time, it's like you didn't have anyone audition that could fill this role. Or did you really think about it? When I was originally asked to be the Indian character, it was for a Maine Playwrights Festival play. So those are written by playwrights and submitted for selection. So it was a really funny play. Like I really enjoyed being a part of it. They had outsourced NASA. And so I was like the Indian telephone operator that was doing mission control for these two astronauts. So it was like a really funny show. But if they hadn't found me to do the role specifically, and like they asked one of the professors at USM and she thought of me. Like if they hadn't sought me out, I don't think they would have been able to cast the show appropriately.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, it's cool that you're willing to do it too.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, like I said, I want representation is important.
Yeah.
So if you can find someone that's willing to do it, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I like the idea of you at the same time though promoting. Let me use that word conscious. Promoting that value for the future of theater in Maine. I mean, it's so important. So thank you. That's wonderful. Yeah, I think are we looking to do a break of any kind?
Yeah,
or?
probably a good time.
Okay.
I could be.
Okay.
You know, after a long winter and fall and summer and spring, there's nothing more I like to do than go on a cruise. You know what I mean, Scott?
I know what you mean. I don't really remember the seasons falling quite like that, but
Right.
you know, I would need to go on a cruise if they did.
Yeah, there's a cruise coming up, and it's the Cirque du Soleil.
Cirque du Soleil. What is
Cruise.
that?
It's a cruise that is set in a matador thing where they're going ole.
Olé.
Olé!
I thought it sounded like a jungle out there or something.
Olé!
Yeah, well, I don't know. Cirque du Soleil. That's what I assume.
Olé.
That's what I assume.
No, Cirque du Soleil.
Soleil means sun.
Oh man, I am.
Circus of the Sun.
Jeez, I'm learning something new every day.
Olé!
Cirque du Soleil cruises. Get on a boat and don't drink the water out of the faucet because chances are it comes out of a tank. And don't open your mouth during a shower. Feel free to browse our many decks, including the observation deck, where you
my
can see parrots. And you can see whales. And visit our 5 o'clock evening show where you can see Cirque. What did you call it?
Olé.
Cirque Olé.
Olé.
Cirque du Soleil cruises. Get them while they're hot.
Are we ready to?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I thought we already had.
Oh,
Welcome back, Scott.
So, Scott, how were the ice capades?
Beautiful.
yeah.
It was. Now I can't even remember what it was called.
The-
Cirque du Soleil.
The ice, yeah. Oh, that's right.
Ice-capades.
Ice capades
Yeah.
part 2.
Yeah, Ice Capades was like
Much
3
better
weeks
than
ago.
the Ice Capades.
Much
Nice.
better.
Nice. What
very
was the
cool.
Cirque du Soleil show that you saw?
It was like this guy in an old Italian circus had died, and it was like his passage to heaven. The whole show was like from the death
Oh,
to him finally pedaling off way up in the sky into heaven. It
Sweet.
was really neat.
Wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
It was neat.
was there like a musical theme like they did? With
Yeah,
like
it was almost like an opera and a circus and big acrobatic
yeah.
dance and yeah, it was
They
quite the show.
they put on a show.
Yeah, it was
Cirque du
beautiful.
Soleil.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Now I just got to see the Beatles one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
So,
Sorry.
oh no, what were you going to say? I
Nothing.
didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Oh,
I'm sure you had a wonderful thought.
No, it's probably going to be something stupid, and
That's okay.
it was just I want to go on a cruise so I can watch a Cirque du Soleil show.
You don't
Yeah.
have to go on a cruise to see Cirque du Soleil.
I know you don't, but
You got to go to
That's-
Vegas to see the
that's-
Beatles one.
Yeah.
that's like the excuse that I have to go on a cruise.
You can go by yourself. It's fine. I'm just not going with you. We don't need to go
We should do an
together.
advertisement for a cruise later. Maybe that would help
Yeah,
us.
John-
get some.
John,
I
you
mean,
wanna go on?
I'm going on a cruise this summer.
Are you
Oh,
really?
maybe
Where
I'll
are you
go with
going?
you.
Yeah, we're going on a Disney cruise. So
Sweet.
from Cape
Disney
Canaveral
cruise.
to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
And,
Is that why you're wearing a Disney 50th?
well, I got married at Disney during the 50th
Oh.
anniversary. So
Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
Your wife, she is a Disney
travel agent.
travel
yes.
agent. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So my wife and
that
her
makes
family are
sense.
obsessed with Disney. The very first time I went over and had dinner with her parents, they talked to me about Disney for more than 2 hours, and I had never been to Disney before. The first time I actually went to Disney was in 2021 for our wedding.
Wow.
I had never been before, but like her family is obsessed. Like
That's so cool.
she actually worked there for a year and a half,
Mhm.
and her son lived there with her.
Wow.
And so they're like totally obsessed. She's a travel agent for Disney. Like she can sell you Disney vacations or Universal or SeaWorld. And
Wow.
so I've been twice since we got married, and then we're going on the cruise this summer.
All right. Well,
Backstairs podcast goes to
I'll say
Disney.
we have been talking about a Disney trip for a long
It's
time.
true.
On the
So-
Disney cruise.
Can you
No.
imagine the interviews you guys could do at Disney, right? All their technical stuff that they do.
Oh,
that's
man.
true.
maybe we can get Walt Disney.
Aaron, I have some bad news for you.
What?
Well, his head's still alive,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Cryogenically
Yes.
frozen, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's
Wait.
some
Wait, is
It's
he?
just his head.
But
It's not his whole
but
body,
the light
right?
in his apartment's always on, so he's there. You think he
There's
would
a
turn the light off if he
strange
left? I
light.
mean,
Yeah, I know. Like if he was sleeping, you
yeah,
you turn it off.
exactly. He's always working. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, this is.
we're back with Danny Gay.
Oh yes, bring it back.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah. So by the way, Scott, I noticed that the flag on Sally's mailbox was up earlier.
Oh, let's check it out.
So
What
I
do we
did
got?
you. No, I already did it. I already
Oh,
got
you
it.
got it. Oh, okay.
I did you a favor.
Thank you.
Sorry to do your job for you.
Somebody's got it.
Yeah. So we have a correspondent that we work with, Miss Sally Jones.
Okay.
And she had a couple questions for you.
Sure.
So, the first thing she wanted to talk about was Cumston Hall. So she was very familiar with it. Apparently, she had done a show, like a restoration drama, and she had 18 rehearsals and 20 different shows at Cumston Hall. So, she just basically was talking about, do you have any? Well, you've already talked about some new updates, the lighting board or anything like that. But
yeah, I mean, Cumston Hall is a beautiful theater to perform in. It was built around 1900 as a gift to the town, and it has the town library actually is there, and
Okay.
then there's the theater upstairs.
Cool.
And there was an artist that Harry Cochran, and he painted frescoes on the ceiling, and like you go in and there's like these angelic babies up above you, and
Oh
all
my
this stuff.
gosh.
It's an absolutely beautiful theater. It was built for opera, so the acoustics are
Mhm.
amazing.
Mm.
It's a real joy to be able to perform there. It's used by several different groups. So Theater at Monmouth probably did the restoration drama, and they are the professional theater in residence. They
Okay.
typically do a season during the summer, and then they do a couple shows throughout the year. And then other user groups like our community theater, Monmouth Community Players, and other groups rent the building throughout the year when Theater at Monmouth is not using it.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's a very, very cool space to perform in.
It's magical.
Sounds it.
Yeah, I've never been there.
No.
We have to go see a show there.
Yeah.
It's
And
awesome.
the outside of the building too is
Yeah.
just amazing to maybe
Huh.
you guys can come see Guys and Dolls.
I really
Yeah.
want to.
I would love to see that show.
You should keep us posted on the
I will.
dates.
I will.
The other question she had was the requirements for a director through CLT. She had heard there was a little bit of a process to that and was hoping to get some insight.
Sure. So I just recently became a director at CLT.
Woot, woot.
And there are two ways that you can do it. They have a director track program. So in that case, you have to work as a stage manager on 2 shows, a producer on 2 shows, an assistant director on 2 shows. And they're just looking for people to get experience, become familiar with the theater.
Yeah.
And then after you pass these kind of checkpoints, then they'll approve you to direct like maybe a second season show that they do, or like a fundraiser, see how you do with that. And then if they're satisfied with how you're doing, then you can apply to direct shows on the main stage there. The other way that you can do it, and it's how I did it, just because I didn't have, it takes like 3 years to get through their
Mhm.
director program. So it's like a big commitment. They're actually working on revamping it to making it a little bit easier, like less of each role that you have to fill
Mhm.
before you can be considered for a director. But what I did is I had a member of their board or someone that is like part of their director team came and saw 2 shows that I've directed, like different people.
Okay.
And so I got 3 recommendations from their board or directors saying that I know what I'm doing. So
Cool.
Mhm.
so I actually applied to direct there in 2024. I haven't
Oh,
heard back
sweet.
yet. But if I do that as a new director to CLT, I'd have to have a mentor just to kind of help me with like the production side of things,
Yeah.
like who
Mhm.
to talk to and,
Yeah.
get the stuff that I need. But
Wow. That's really exciting.
yeah,
2024, you said.
I did. Yeah, I haven't heard back yet. I applied to do a Christmas show and I
Mhm.
applied to
Mm.
do a murder mystery.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah. That's really exciting. I can't wait to hear back
Yeah.
whether you got that or not. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm a little curious not to step on the questions from
Go for it.
Sally. I forgot her name for a second.
Mhm.
Sorry, Sally.
Friend of the show. Local treasure.
And
You guys have so many friends.
A few of them.
well, some we just say are friends, and then others are.
John Stamos.
Friend of the show. Local treasure.
So just a quick question about directing. Does CLT pick shows and then find directors for it, or does directors pitch shows to CLT?
Yeah, that's a great question. So CLT actually has directors submit shows that they're interested in directing.
Okay.
So like we talked about how we were in Mamma Mia together.
Mhm.
John Blanchett, who was the director of that, pitched that show to the theater, and they selected him to direct the show.
Nice.
We do it a little differently at Monmouth.
Right.
We pick the shows for our season as a production board,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then we seek directors to direct those
Okay.
shows.
Cool.
So.
That's awesome. And do you? Sorry, follow up question. Sorry, Sally, for stepping on your glory.
We were done with Sally's questions.
said-
so
Oh, okay. So we're
She
done.
had 2 questions. He asked them.
Okay. Well, then, never mind, Sally.
he takes back the sorry
I
Sally.
am, I am not sorry.
I'm sorry for Aaron and Sally.
I keep on doing this, and then I forgot my question. So, yeah, I remember now.
There
Sorry.
you go.
Sorry. Just needed to.
On track. Super professional.
That's just good radio.
So when you're reaching out for directors, do you have a pool that you have, or do you post it somewhere?
So it's kind of new for us. We have the same couple of directors that tend to direct a lot of shows for
Right.
Monmouth community players. So we're trying to branch out and recruit new people to direct for us. So what I've been doing is creating kind of an application process, and I put it out on the Maine Theater Collective Facebook group and Maine Theater Folk.
Cool.
Just the places I know where people that do theater in Maine will see it.
Mm.
So we ended up having 8 people, I think, apply to direct shows for us for 2023.
That's awesome.
And we were able to do some director interviews and hire the directors for those shows.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Great. That was it. Those were my questions. Sorry.
They were great questions,
Thank you.
though. Thank you for adding them.
I'm curious.
No, they were good questions. I agree.
How does Oompa do their show selection or director?
Yeah, so we put out a director pitch, and basically it's less about the show and more about the vision and the drive that potential director would bring.
Mhm.
During COVID, obviously, as everyone can, it kind of changed and shifted the dynamic of directors and everything. But the last couple of seasons, we've had new directors
Great.
to our group, and
Yeah, that's awesome.
we're excited to see where that goes.
Yeah.
So, we just cast Clue on stage,
Yep.
the play.
Yep.
We have Misery coming up where Aaron's going to be a producer on that. So that's
Yep.
exciting.
Mhm.
We talked about this before, but then Rachel and I are actually directing Jekyll and Hyde in the fall.
I saw that. Yeah,
So that's pretty exciting for us.
Mhm.
that's a good one.
Scott agreed to produce during Jekyll and Hyde. We have a little
A masterpiece.
Janelle's
Oh.
referring to as a masterpiece, a
Oh,
little
okay.
Halloween show that I threw together using just public domain urban legend stories.
Fun.
So that's gonna be kind of fun to do 2 shows at the same time.
Mhm.
But
Are they connected to each other, or are they just
no,
happening at the
using
same
it
time?
as a little fundraiser kind
Yep.
of gift to the community. Donations going to a couple different things.
Nice.
We had a friend, high school friend, that passed away a couple years ago. We had to do a scholarship at the local high school.
Awesome.
So yeah, so that's
Mhm.
we're excited.
It's a pretty big season for Oompa.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a little bit of a dark season.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, a little
It
bit.
was dark.
That's okay.
But it just means that we gotta do some pretty light, fun shows next
Do some
year.
comedies next year, right?
Aaron,
Yeah.
Legally Blonde. It's
Yeah,
the time.
right?
Oh,
Make it
you-
happen.
You could put on another wig, Aaron.
And I would star in it. Oh my gosh!
You guys want to see a magic trick? Look at this.
Ooh.
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 Ah.
So anyway, earlier you said you had done spelling bee,
I have, yeah.
and you had mentioned to me that you might have had a pretty cool story about choreographing yourself. What happened there?
So when we
That's
did
not code
spelling
for
bee,
anything, is it?
choreographing myself. No, it's not. Not this time, anyway. So when we did Spelling Bee, our director was like, oh, there's not really many dance numbers. We don't really need a choreographer for the show. And then, I said I played William Barfay, and we got to Magic Foot. and she's like, you know what? I want everyone in the cast to be part of that. And like I have, I'm not a dancer by any means. Like I can learn choreography. I can from other choreographers, or I can watch videos and kind of figure it out. I have had to choreograph some of my kids shows before.
Right.
So tangents, and then I'll get back to your question. But my very first kids show I directed was James and the Giant Peach Jr. for Schoolhouse Arts Center in Standish.
So awesome.
And I had never directed before anything. And there were puppets in that show. There was projection.
Yeah.
There was
you
a
picked a good
giant
one.
peach. And I did not know what I was getting into. But I asked a friend at college to choreograph for me. And she dropped out after like 2 rehearsals. So I was like,
Oh, no.
all right, great. You know what? I'm going to choreograph this show too. And I did, thanks to YouTube. and my previous choreography experience that I had myself. But yeah, so the director for Spelling Bee was like, you know what? You can just choreograph your own piece.
Oh,
it's
man.
fine, right?
Wow.
So I did. So I watched some videos and took some stuff and put it all together. And we had our Magic Foot choreography.
That's wonderful.
awesome.
That's awesome.
I mean, there's like a dance break almost.
It's like a
Oh, yeah.
vaudeville number,
Yeah,
basically.
for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's cool.
Did you enjoy Spelling Bee?
It's a fun show, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Although I will say, like, the enjoyability really hinges on the audience members that you have on stage with you.
Yes.
Yep.
Like
Yeah,
we
we
had some
figured that
real
out.
great people, and we had some real duds.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's just whenever you do that show, I feel like that's
Mhm.
it's kind of like the risk that you're running.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
We had duds. We had some like fantastic people too.
yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Like they played along beautifully.
Mhm.
So
Well, you don't want people who are going to really act, but you also don't want people
Right.
who want nothing to do with it. So
Right.
it's like
Mhm.
finding that perfect Goldilocks
Yeah.
zone of
We
just
definitely had a
right.
few of those like actor people.
Yeah.
Like there was one guy that came up, and instead of spelling the word he was given, he spelled out a name of one of the cast members.
Yeah.
Like
That's nice.
not really appropriate. For,
Yeah.
yeah, no. I don't know if you heard, but we had one that instead of spelling cow, they spelled dog.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I did hear about that actually.
Really-
Well, she
yeah,
leaned
really
over
threw
and
it.
whispered, "I gotta get out of here." Before she did it.
Yeah, she wanted out. She
did
wanted
not
out.
want to- Did you not know that? Yeah, I don't know if she whispered that to Cariana or she whispered it to Gabby, but she's like, I,
I think
gotta
it was
get out of here.
Cariana. Yeah.
But it definitely messes up the flow of the show.
Yes,
They
it
don't
sure
spell
does.
cow.
yeah,
And they did wonderfully. I mean, they got right through it. It was a blast.
yeah, we don't need to keep on talking
Yeah.
about that.
So
I was just curious of your experience.
Yeah, it's a fun show.
No, it is a fun show.
yeah, and then earlier we were talking a little bit about your experience meeting Dr. Shah. So you had played him. You're
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I started working with a theater company from New York called Royal Family Productions. And right now they're actually producing an off-Broadway show with Anthony Rapp. It's
Oh,
called
cool.
Without You.
Yeah.
So they have a theater right in Times Square.
Oh, cool.
Off Broadway, and so they're producing that right now. But their artistic director is from Winthrop, Maine, which is right near Monmouth.
Oh, cool.
And so she's taught at Camp Androscoggin doing theater for like the last 20 years in the summer. And so during COVID, she was up here helping take care of her parents and just like trying to keep theater going for her company. So a mutual friend introduced us, and she cast me in a show that they ended up doing up here at Kempston Hall called Holy Hans, which was based on a few different fairy tales like the Little Matchstick Girl, The Emperor's New Clothes, that type of thing. And she likes to write kind of satirically and politically a little bit.
Okay.
But her parents are like in love with Dr. Shah, and would watch his newscast every day, and she always talked about how much they were obsessed with him. So eventually she started writing scripts, and we ended up coming up with an original musical called COVID Sucks, the musical.
Yes.
We've done like 3 or 4 different iterations of this, but I ended up playing Dr. Shah.
Nice.
And so I rapped Alexander Hamilton, but all of the lyrics were rewritten to be about Dr. Shah. And so I got to do that. He actually ended up coming to one of our rehearsals for our most recent iteration, and I got to meet him, and we did that number and a couple other numbers that were
cool.
about him. And now that he's headed to the national level, she tweeted out like, we're going to have to take Dr. Shaw the musical to like the national stage. And he's like, I'm for it. So who knows? Maybe someday I'll be performing nationally
For the
in Dr.
CDC
Shaw the
director.
musical. Yeah.
No, that's
But he's a
pretty
very
awesome.
chill guy, you know, super cool, very humble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
and whether, you know, whatever side of politics you fall down on, I think we can all agree that he tried his best for Maine while he was here, you know?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I was very, very impressed with, he was able to keep his composure. And so
Yeah.
cool guy.
What are you gonna do?
Oh, man.
I think
Somebody's not gonna like you.
Yeah.
I feel like that's an appropriate name though. COVID sucks.
Yeah.
That's.
Yep.
I think we are. That's bipartisan.
Yep.
Yeah, right?
We all agree.
Finally, we found something to agree on.
So you've had all these roles in theater, right? I mean, you've done basically, you said the only thing you haven't done is choreograph a full show.
I've
Right.
never
Yeah.
choreographed a full adult show, and I've never costumed an adult show, but I have choreographed kid shows and done the costumes for those.
Nice.
You've done everything then.
Pretty much.
You've
yeah.
done everything. That's
Yep.
that's awesome.
I mean, and now you have this role as a tech director. I mean, there's not really too far up the chain. I mean, do you see yourself growing in a different area? I mean,
I mean, I think
What are your
every
thoughts?
experience is different. Like, you know, and what one theater expects from you in a role is different than what another theater expects from you in the same role. So like CLT, where I'm going to be the tech director, you know, they have a tech director, whereas MCP, we don't really have a tech
Mhm.
director. As the artistic director, I kind of just oversee all of the tech stuff
Yep.
Yeah.
because it's also something I'm familiar with.
Mm.
So every theater is a little bit different. In terms of growth, I guess I see myself being able to grow more as an actor. Like if I'm able to do more professional theater acting opportunities, I think. I like working with professional directors just because it's a different experience every time.
Yeah.
Like in community theater, you tend to have the same directors that you work with over and over.
Mhm.
And you kind of, you know, you get to know them pretty well, what they expect and want from you in a show. And so it's nice to work with new people.
Yeah.
And you learn a little bit every time you work with someone else.
sure. Yeah, go for it.
No. So what do you enjoy doing the most? You've listed so many things.
I know. Sorry.
Scott's shaking his head.
Allow me to apologize for doing so many things.
we could save it.
No, go ahead.
See, I keep in mind that Scott's going to come back with these questions and try to,
What
you
else?
know.
What else did you ask?
Well, Scott, to answer your question,
He's very questionable. Sorry.
I think it's really hard for me to say. I love so many of the different things I do, which is why I do a variety of
Mhm.
different things. Like one of the reasons I wanted to become a teacher is because I didn't want to have the same job day after day, like do the same thing, sit in an office. You know, teaching kids it's different every day.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like to keep theater that way too, whether it's like playing a different role on stage or doing lights or sound or set. Like I love doing all of it.
Yeah.
I love acting. I think that's the most fun thing to do out of all of them. But you tend to get recognized more for things like the tech stuff, like the
Yeah.
lighting design and like things like that. So I think it depends. I love all of it, and it's hard for me to choose one thing above everything else. I'd say I'm most comfortable doing lighting and sound design because that's what I went to school for.
Yeah.
And then the acting is just more fun than
Yeah.
anything else.
I love that as a teacher, obviously your job is to foster, you know, the minds and help, you know, to grow and learn. And I see that in every aspect of you in theater as well, right? Like you're fostering that, I don't want to say next generation, but
Yeah.
you're looking to help people grow and get better. And so how do you see that? I mean, especially living in Maine, we've already talked about some of the challenges of theater in Maine. How do you see that get better? I mean, I know that we struggle a little bit up here, you know, fostering that. And
I think one of the biggest challenges that theater in Maine is facing right now is involvement. I feel like it's the same people that come and audition for the shows. It's the same 2 or 3 people that do lighting design or that know how to do sound design or run microphones. You know, the same 2 or 3 set designers or directors are left having to design their own sets. So I think it's just about trying to foster more involvement, which is what I love about doing the education program with MCP, is like getting kids hooked on theater when they're young so that they'll be more open-minded about learning about different parts of theater. Like last summer we did a summer camp, the Rainbow Fish, and we had the kids help like paint the set.
Mhm.
And,
Cool.
you know, they
Nice.
helped kind of pick out some of their costume pieces and
Right.
stuff like that. So it's really teaching them that it's more than just acting. There's a
Yeah.
lot of other stuff that goes into a show.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There's really a spot for like a lot of different types of people in theater. It's not just
Yeah.
actors. I mean, they get a lot of I don't know, the FaceTime. They get a lot of FaceTime, but you know, there's so many cool things like lighting and sound and
Yeah.
We need some
design.
good carpenters.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of other fields
Yeah.
too where like
Mhm.
their work is totally applicable to theater as well.
Oh yeah.
yeah. When I built my first, like, helped build my first set, I was like, this is actually so much fun, and I was thinking of like so many people that would enjoy
Mhm.
doing this with me. I'm like, man, I should get this guy to come because this
Yeah,
is a
definitely.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
The only thing about carpenters building sets is you have to teach them not to use nails.
Yeah.
Because then the set doesn't come apart afterwards.
Right. Well, the other thing is like it doesn't need to hold 5,000 pounds.
Right, that too.
Mhm.
Either you're
Yeah.
just like it's a temporary.
It's
thing.
a temporary structure.
One screw every couple of feet
Is more than enough. Yeah.
Exactly.
At least they're using screws, though. I've seen sets
Yeah, right.
nailed together, and man, that's hard to
Oh,
get
that's
apart.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, can't do
Yeah.
it.
You just got to be better at taking things apart.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, just bring up the crowbars,
rip
it, rip it.
And I think a way to get more people involved in that stuff, like the set building and the lighting and all that stuff, is to recognize them more. Like you said, the actors get all the FaceTime, they
Yeah.
get the recognition, and the tech people are kind of the unsung heroes of the theater world.
Gosh.
Yeah.
And so one thing I like is actually CLT does an email newsletter, and they have like an unsung hero section where they
Yeah.
highlight a technician.
Cool.
Oh, cool.
I used to
that
write
works with
that
them.
segment for a long time. I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
saying.
Very cool.
That's right.
I did.
But
Yeah.
but it's nice to see people recognized for things that they're passionate about that they like to do that's not just acting.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. No,
That's great.
I agree.
I just want to make sure that we gave it its full. I know, when we were conversing back and forth, you had brought up, diversity in acting. We've
Mhm.
talked a little bit about that. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover with that? I want to make sure that you got the full.
No, I appreciate that, John. I think I covered most of it. Like, I think really the bottom line that I hope that theater, not just in Maine, but everywhere, is that people are conscious of the choices that they're making in terms of shows to put on, and that they can appropriately cast those shows without it being offensive in some
Mhm.
way, I guess.
Yeah.
I do know that you're familiar with Drive the Chaperone.
Yes.
Did you do any type of lighting or stuff for that at USM?
I did not.
Okay. Was that before you were there?
Might have been after I was there.
Okay. I had the role of Adolfo, so part of that, I have in the beginning of the second act, I'm meant to be the Chinese emperor, and part of that show is, it's not necessarily the stereotype that it's making fun of. It's making fun of a very obviously white male playing the stereotype. So it's almost hitting two things at the same time.
Like
And,
the breakfast at Tiffany's type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those deals that we had talked to one of our friends, and he had a really hard time with playing Sebastian in Little Mermaid.
Sure.
Again, very, very white male, debating, well, do I do the Jamaican accent? And he was able to go through it and rationalize it for himself that there are also, he met a white man from Jamaica that
Yeah,
still
of
talks
course.
with that
He
same
was,
accent, right?
he was on YouTube. He
Mhm.
saw
Yeah.
found the white guy on YouTube.
And
that was
I know
Jamaican.
that I had to do that for myself, that with playing that Chinese emperor, that I was not the emperor. I was the white guy failing epically at
Yeah,
Mhm.
sure. It depends on the context and the interpretation of the show itself.
Right.
but it's one of those things too that like I would love to it was great to get your take on it, but I'd love to get other views on, especially in our area. I know that there are a lot of shows that have gone around the table, and it's one of those things that it's so easy to dismiss because we couldn't fill those roles. But just like, I mean, Scott's attested, Scott's pretty new to theater. Aaron right here is new to being on stage, for the most part, that I think that maybe we don't necessarily do a great job of promoting those roles either.
Mhm.
Yeah, sometimes you really have to, like like you were saying, I was kind of targeted like for getting some of those roles. Like sometimes you really have to target your marketing to try to find people to fill those roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I'm excited to talk about it, and I really appreciate you bringing that view to the table. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are roles that are shows that are like, that I wouldn't audition for as a person of color. Like, I don't think I could really be in Sound of Music easily, 'cause,
Yeah, right.
like it's this white Austrian family, and most of the people there are white Austrians or Nazis, and like there's really very little room for interpretation in that. So I don't know that I would ever audition for Sound of Music.
Yeah, it's not like Rolf is ever going to be played by anybody but the palest white dude.
Right.
So,
and it's a great show. I like the music and the story is nice, but I just don't know that, like, I could say maybe Uncle Max would be like the one character I feel like I could play, but like, other than that, there's not really a role for me in that show.
Yeah.
So.
Were you looking at Aaron as being our Rolf?
The palest white guy. I just looked at the palest white guy in the room. I'm sorry.
It's all right, brother.
It's okay.
It's all right.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So do we have any other questions for Danny at all?
Well, yeah.
We have
Well,
our
no, not
questionable person.
You don't count. Do you actually have 5 now that we've...
No, I have 4.
Oh, no. Well, if you go through your 4, maybe one of
We'll
us
get
will
one.
come up with a 5th one.
Yes.
So
we will.
I thought before we went to Scott, though, it might be fun. You worked with Janelle. We haven't really talked about Mamma Mia. What was your first, you met Janelle there. What were your first thoughts about Janelle? I know I'm putting you on the spot with that
I know,
question.
right?
But
Janelle is a wonderful lady.
you have to understand.
She's
Good
beautiful.
answer, good
answer.
talented,
The reason I'm
and
asking
beautifully
is
talented.
because our audience loves Janelle. I mean, Janelle is...
No, Janelle is very talented. I honestly don't remember my first impression necessarily. My wife worked closely with Janelle in that show because they were like the 2 buddies of the woman in the show. But we were on stage together, but never really interacted as characters other than like the dancing at the very end of the show. So,
oh my gosh, that is amazing. Oh,
Yeah.
I've never made that connection until right now. Wow. Okay.
but I thought Janelle was very talented, and I thought she did a great job in the show, and it was a fun show to be a part of.
It really was. Yeah. And you did a great job as well.
Thank you.
Speaking of Janelle, I feel like we should mention that
I was just going to say she's going back to
Well,
CLT,
that's where I was leading with.
Hey.
So you're doing a show.
I wanted to see if she would make the announcement herself.
Well,
So
I didn't want to there was some good stuff happening here. I didn't
know.
want to interrupt it, but yeah.
But I mean,
We're
come
done
on.
with Danny now.
I mean, my news is very small. It's fine.
Really small.
Yes, the leading role is always small.
So I just found out that I will be playing Joe March in CLT's production of Little Women. So, yeah.
Which, I mean, the amount of competition for that role, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah. The night that I was there was probably like 25, 30 women, all of my age and casting type, all going for the same thing. So you never really expect, you try to prepare for disappointment because, somebody's got to be disappointed, and odds are that it's going to be you. But
how do you go into that? I mean, how did you see all this competition? How do you set yourself apart?
I kind of had a little bit of like a
She's supposed to
auditioning.
direct her at 20.
I did not.
20. He's pretty cheap.
I don't know that the director would do that for $20.
Yeah. I'm hoping that the director will become a friend of the show.
Benjamin,
so
maybe.
let's see. No, I don't know. I felt like I did pretty decent in the vocal audition, and then I knew going into the reading that a lot of people would really want to highlight like the brashness and the loudness and the boldness of the character, and I kind of wanted to find a way to bring in another facet to her of, there is this tenderness that she shares with her family. and this love that she has for her sisters. So I very strategically waited for one specific reading that I knew was coming down the pike. And that was the one that I raised my hand for and volunteered for. And I don't know. I think that moment was where it like locked in for me. So
It's awesome.
Who'd have thought Janelle giving maximum effort?
Right. So full circle.
So yeah, that's my story. It's going to be at the end of April. So
Well,
I
Danny,
hope.
enjoy
Awesome.
being lighting Janelle.
Yeah, you
I will. Yeah, I'm doing the lighting design for that show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're gonna win another award.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm
Hopefully,
predicting it now.
Yeah.
Well, and
She's
Janelle
calling
will
her
win
shot.
the acting award.
Oh,
Hey.
maybe.
Oh,
Can I be there on the red
fine,
carpet
it's
with
okay.
you?
Yes.
Nice.
It's a
Sorry,
it's a
Aaron.
virtual red carpet, but you can be there.
I was going to say, is there a red carpet?
If there is one, I want
If
to be
there
on
is,
it.
John
Yeah,
is
I'm
coming
going.
with me.
I'm
so
going.
Sorry, Aaron.
Just John.
just John.
we can't all go.
No,
Just
Just
Joey.
John.
I
That's
called it.
he called it. He got dibs. It's like calling shotgun.
We could be on the outside in the crowd of
Mhm.
on the side
Listen,
of the red
we've already
carpet, right?
discussed that I've known Janelle longer than Aaron, so this is my...
Okay.
as soon as you lose, I guess.
Anyway, we have a very questionable person among us.
Me and Scott are going on a cruise.
Come on, Disney.
Disney cruise.
Danny, you want to come with us?
I would love to. Yeah,
Yeah. All right. It's gonna be a good time.
I still choose the red carpet, Janelle.
All right, cool.
we can
Sweet.
see Cirque du Soleil.
On the
On the
Disney
cruise.
cruise.
Yes.
But anyway, we have a questionable person among us. He's very questionable looking and questionable acting, and he's got some questions for you.
Oh, we call it strike because it's the end of the show.
All right,
You understand that?
I
You
do.
Do you show up for strike?
I mean, you have to.
Oh.
It's required.
That's what they say.
Oops.
I do show up for strike, yes, and I bring my own screw gun. Right.
There you
So-
go.
Oh, see,
Oh.
he knows.
You're
He knows.
you're valuable.
He knows.
Valuable.
Valuable.
You valuable.
Valuable. I get it.
Valuable.
That's good. That's good. So I got 5 questions for you for
You found a
strike.
fifth one?
Well, we're gonna have 5 questions for you for strike.
One way or another.
That's right. We're gonna
What's
come
your
up with
birth
5.
date?
So we're always asking people what are their thoughts on new ways to stage things. You know, we're looking for something different, trying to break out of the same old, same old. You ever thought of that?
I guess I would ask, what do you mean in terms of staging something new? Like,
Well,
just-
what do you want to do? Something outside? Something? Some new
yeah,
way
so,
inside?
So actually, during COVID, we had to get pretty creative with
Yeah.
MCP in order to keep theater going. So
Yeah.
we ended up doing a graveyard show in the local cemetery
Ooh.
based on the Spoon River anthology.
Oh,
Yeah.
So we did some of the characters in the cemetery, and we led tours through, and
Cool.
the actors did the monologues, and we did an outdoor production of the Laramie Project. Because it's a show where the actors don't really interact with each other very
Yeah.
much.
Mhm.
So we staged that in the park in Auburn as a way to do a show during COVID and keep that social distancing.
You can almost do Bubble Boy. Oh.
yeah, you could. But there's only one bubble.
The boy's the only one not in the bubble.
Everybody else is in the bubble.
And then something we did starting, I think, also during COVID, we did it on Zoom the first year is we started a 10-minute play festival for local playwrights. So we asked them to submit scripts, and we choose some of the scripts and we have the actors perform those. So we did it outside in Auburn last year, and then the year before it was on Zoom. So we were trying to be creative about how we could continue doing theater during COVID, and people seem to appreciate it. And we're now doing a cemetery show, but we're basing it on Monmouth local history. So we have one of our board members that's a writer.
Cool.
So she's taking like some of the historical information from Monmouth and writing character monologues. So next this coming season in 2023 will be our 4th year of doing that show.
That's
nice.
That's actually really cool.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like that idea.
Yeah, the community history. That's a cool aspect of it.
Yeah. I've been another company I've worked with, right? So Spirits Alive is a group in Portland that helps preserve the cemeteries. And so I think the last 4 years I've been in their production, which they base it on the history of Portland and Falmouth, because that part of Portland actually used to be Falmouth. So they, and I usually play the character of color, go figure, but
What?
but it's really fun, although it's very cold because we do it in October,
Yeah.
right near the water. in the Eastern Cemetery. But it's a lot of fun to do that. People seem to really enjoy the historical aspect of it. So
Is that a walkthrough tour?
It
as
is a
well?
walking tour, yeah. So we kind of adapted that idea to do in Monmouth. But.
So just so you take a group through people's like
So they
area?
have guides. Yeah, they have guides. So like the actors are in the cemetery, kind of they have their spots with a light that shines on them, and they have spirit guides that take people through to each station, and they listen to the
monologue
to the show. Yeah.
Cool. That's actually really
We should
cool.
go.
And
I want to go.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
we should do one in Norway.
That'd be cool.
we could. Absolutely. But we're moving on to the next question because that's only one question. We went quite a ways with that.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Not necessarily your favorite, but what's your guilty pleasure musical?
Ooh. I'll be honest that as a theater person, I'm not familiar with a ton of musicals. Like I
That's
know
fair.
it's kind
That's
of like
fair.
an expectation.
It's not. I don't-
But I want to say
Somebody's
that
assuming it.
You.
I guess so.
I would say I love the music from Newsies.
Mhm.
So that's one of the ones I like to listen to a lot. And actually, Come From Away. I haven't seen it, but I love the music from Come
Yeah.
From Away.
I haven't heard of that one.
So it's
Listeners.
based on the events that happened in during 9/11 when all of the people got stranded in Greenland or Iceland. I can't remember, but they got stranded in this little town. So the musical tells the story of these people that got stranded there because all of their airplanes had to land outside of U.S. airspace.
Right.
And so they were stuck there for like over a week, and they couldn't contact had a hard time contacting their families. And
Is there a lot of strings? Is the orchestral part? Is there a lot of string music to it? Like mandolin, stuff like that.
there might be. I don't know for sure.
Oh, okay. I think I've seen it pop up before on my playlist, but I'm not familiar with that show.
But it's been on Broadway for a few years now, and it's really good.
Come away.
Come from away.
Come from away.
Thanks. What I can't remember now. Oh yes. What are you listening to these days?
I've been listening to Guys and Dolls, honestly, the
Yeah.
last week or
I
two
get that.
in preparation for the auditions. So
Yeah.
they told us that they want people to come in familiar with the music of the character that you want to audition for.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So since I'm putting down multiple characters, I've had to get familiar
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the music for multiple characters. I don't want to show up and not look like I'm prepared to do the
Yeah,
audition.
yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. You have to be like Janelle. Just
We can't all be Janelle.
Oh.
Well,
that's
I
very
mean,
true.
You can give maximum effort, but
Mhm.
is it Janelle's maximum effort?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know. He gives pretty great
Yeah.
maximum
just-
effort. So.
yeah.
That's good. That was question 3. We got. You guys got one more, and then I'll do the last one. You got one?
Well, what if it's your question? What if they steal your question?
Well, it's
They ain't gonna steal my question.
the one we end on usually.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah,
If-
Janelle, go
Yeah.
for
so
it.
you work with kids in your day job and in community theater, and I'm curious what your advice would be to young people who are looking to get involved with theater.
I think that my advice would be that while it may seem scary, especially for a lot of kids that have stage fright or trouble with public, talking in public, there's a lot of ways to be involved. We've kind of talked about that. There's not just acting. There's all the technical stuff that you can do. I got really involved in technical theater in high school with my community theater. So I think it's just theater is a place where everyone is loving and accepting of who you are, no matter what you are, and you can just be yourself. And I think that that's really important for anyone wanting to join theater, and that there is a spot for everyone.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's good.
Nice. Great answer. All right. One more question. And we're a community theater podcast. So we like to talk about community. What in your opinion, how do you build a community?
So I think, kind of like I just said, being loving and accepting of everyone that wants to be a part of what you do. With MCP, we really try to push the fact that we want everyone to feel like they're a part of our MCP family. We're not just there to do the show. We're there to get to know each other, to become friends, to be involved with one another. We want anyone that feels that they're interested to join us and try it out. So I really think it's just that community of acceptance, tolerance, understanding, and caring about one another really helps build that community.
Well,
Yeah,
nice.
for sure.
What a great way to end it.
Yeah.
For sure. This has been another episode of the Backstairs Podcast.
Thanks for coming, folks.
Thank you, Danny. It was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you all.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you for traveling all this
Janelle,
way.
thanks for being a guest host.
I did next
Wonderful.
to nothing. Thank
Wonderful
you.
job. Wonderful job.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, this has
so-
been the Backstairs Podcast.
The Backstairs Podcast.
The Backstairs
The
Podcast.
Backstairs Podcast.
The what? The Backstairs Podcast.
There you go.
Nice.
All right.
This has been the Backstairs Podcast. You can stream the audio or video format of this episode anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Backstairs Podcast. Send us an email at thebackstairspodcast@gmail.com. Redacted!